Yeah. I definitely enjoyed. So this is what you can again customize your lab setting, but we have cameras set up here, but our Tobii Studio eye tracker is right here. The eye tracking system itself is captured here, so as you can see, it's very small, but it's so efficient. And then this just looks like a regular screen monitor. We do have, like I said, the infant toddler seat, which I would recommend because again, it restricts a lot of movement, and it's in a good way. It's beneficial to do that. And then parents usually sit next to the child, just so children, because these are infants, we don't want to be able to extra make them really distracted. So have the parents sit next to them and they face away from the camera. So that way then they see that the parents in the room, but just not directly impacting the tracking system. So through the eye tracker, it is important to see the gaze location. So if the child is too far away, that's all that gets considered in the calibration process. So that something, if the child is too far away, their eye movements won't even show up on a quadrant. So they'll just say that, oh, you need to fix the child. Either they're sitting too high, too low. All of that you would have to adjust for each individual child. So, and again, that's something that's just one of the things. It could be a con for a screen-based linear tracker, but again, through head mounted, all of those are not really applicable. But here, I do have to physically make sure that they're not sitting too far away. Now, if the child really is, we've also had childs that are so distracted that they start, bouncing themselves off of the chair. So things like that are also possible, and you have to that's just something you have to account for. And then, so what I can do is we can have somebody get video tracked or eye tracked. Hi. Sorry, I was just explaining that this is our eye tracker, and that it's a screen-based tracker, so the tracking itself is here. We can try it out. We can see how the gaze data would look like, and we can just see it in real time how the process is. So I don't know if anybody's interested.
Who couldn't fit in the seat?
Yeah, right. We wouldn't be able to. But yeah, we just have the person sit and get their eyes tracked. It doesn't indicate how well, how accurate you are. So you don't have to worry that if you don't have 20/20 vision or things like that. It's literally how well it's capturing that moment of attention that you're focused on.
Does glasses matter? Oh, because
because again, it just captures on the pupil, whatever's on the pupil. It doesn't really doesn't cause an issue unless the infant is like moving around too much or something with there are issues in terms of if there's a lot of visual issues and just physical measures or physical issues. That's something that you also want to consider. So if the child has, if they have epilepsy, if they have different types of visual problem, you do want to consider that beforehand. So you would have to see how that data looks like as opposed to. But for the eye tracker, it doesn't matter whether they're wearing glasses or not. Exactly. So, but it's more of a coding that you want to be aware that this child had other visual issues
or exclusion criteria.
Exactly. So yeah, for my study, I didn't have children my children that were at risk. They were any children that didn't have visual problems or didn't have epilepsy or other medical sort of issues that might physically be disruptive for them. So.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. And so for this, again, it calibrates really well in the sort of normal testing conditions, and that normal testing conditions are usually lights off. So that is another reason infants fall asleep, infants, adults fall asleep, everyone falls asleep. But that is what's considered the standardized normal testing condition. It's very dim or no lights. So, and again, if you are doing it in the real world, then that's again different tracking measures. And then that would be either the glasses or a mobile tracker.
How expensive are those glasses?
Really expensive.
I want one.
Yeah. I think we're in the
birthday present. 10,000.
But again, they could be. Yeah, but they could be again. Depending on sort of how fancy you want it with that, you can get it sort of cheaper, have just the basic recording things, but then you'll have to have additional software to be able to get all that information from that. So it's compatibility with other software and how much you want it to get, how much you want to give the information. Okay, all right, so
they want to have the good information.
Exactly. Can we share?
For me, it was mostly I wish I had a mobile tracker simply because infants are harder to get here, especially infants at risk for autism. They're harder to get in the lab. So it would be great if
Why is that? Well,
because they're older, because they're classified at risk in terms of their older siblings. So their older siblings are always they can't either be left alone or they can't come in for the appointments.
We just had a poster
Tiny
session,
interventions and
it
therapy.
was a lot of people asked just about how you
It's
calibrate the eyes and how that all
data
works. So
collection, logistics,
yeah. was one question I got again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we've gone through, because we had like a Toby
We have 3 full rooms.
and we've done like practice runs on everyone in the lab just to kind of get a feel for using it.
Right.
And we did have some issues with glasses, but we have a different system too.
Okay.
So
You have the screen.
it's like a little bar that goes at the bottom of a computer and you can mount it.
But it's not the same as this.
It's not the same, yeah. It's different.
Oh, so you have the one that the detachable one?
Bar, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a mobile eye tracker. So you can take that detachable thing itself and place it on any monitor. That's what makes it
Yeah.
mobile for it. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Because they're so
I think that it's better to have that one.
the mobile one, yeah. So
Then you can put it on a big screen or a little screen.
exactly, and you can really mount it. It just needs a stable surface. So you
Right.
could put it somewhere like on a flat, maybe
Oh.
like a fireplace, if that
Oh,
happens to capture like a wider sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, how far away do you think it's still able to capture?
It is able to still capture it, but if you're too far away, then a mounted eye tracker might not work as well for
Right.
your study purposes.
That is the option.
Let's see.
Over time, it's all gonna get cheaper.
Yeah, that's true.
So right now, like within this Tobii software, you can add lots of different things. So if you want the start the screen with instruction, you can write in focus on this image for the next 10 seconds. So you can add in an instruction. You can add in a still image, any image that is just going to be that you're interested in. You can have different number of images. So if you want to go from happy faces to sad faces to neutral face, things like that, you can also have number of images. A movie is what I have right now. You can also have a movie stimuli, a web, so you can link it to an external website. So you can say follow this, and again, that's more of the consumer research. Screen recording, this allows you to record the screen itself. So not only how they're capturing the eye movement, but how the actual individual is focusing on there. So you can again see that, oh, well, they're looking at this. It shows that they're looking here, but in reality, they were like sort of
Yeah.
offset or things like
Right.
that.
So that's an image of, that's filming their face?
Yeah.
Or is that
Exactly.
seeing the user experience?
It's seeing the face. It's
The
seeing
face,
like their experience of it. Yep.
Okay.
And then you can externalize it with an additional video if you want to capture simultaneous things. Scene camera, again, it captures the overall scene outside.
So it's a separate input.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
It's just additional on top of it. So
Right.
the screen recording is just records the screen itself, and then this is scene camera that's outside of the sort of larger room.
So
For
when,
example, the one that you have in every corner in that room.
That one doesn't, it's not linked with the eye tracker. That's
But
just,
it can be possible.
it can.
right, exactly, right,
Okay.
right. And then you can add in a questionnaire, and that they would be something that they click through. That's also possible. So when you click through, so you can see that, that when you're clicking through questions, that this person focused on question 3 for X number of time longer than that number. So again, those kinds of things, you can also build that in. And then a PDF element, same thing, just more of like user friendly. How well is it that they do certain recordings? So these are mirror images. Always a screen-based eye tracker is always connected to a computer that is an external computer where it feeds the information to. So this is my second display. The other one is the one tracker itself, and it mimics what happens on both computers. Usually, you want it when you start the recording. You ask the participants information, and like I said, the calibration is the most important. So it's always going to go through. I believe this is a default calibration, so I'm not sure how it's going to go. So this is where it gives you a map. Alex, are you looking at the screen?
Yes, now I am.
Okay, you might have to move closer. So when she moves, there should be 2 eyeballs that appear. That means she's either sitting too close or not close and too far away. So you would have to adjust it. So until the 2 little blinking eyeballs appear here, when it shows up in this green area, that means that it's capturing the location. Then you start the calibration. So, Alex, it's not capturing you. Do you see the little 2 red lights flickering at the bottom?
Yes.
Okay. You can look anywhere on the screen. Just move around.
Take care of my glasses.
No, it doesn't. Glasses don't impact it. So move around. Just go back a little bit. Let's see. Might have to bring up the eye tracker. Let me see. Oh, you see?
Oh.
Okay, what you just did a second ago, go back to that. So you see it's trying to pick it up.
Okay, go slowly, move back and forth towards and away to the screen. Okay, right there. And then once you're there, stay there. So it's trying to stabilize it. You can see like it's picturing it, but it's moving too much. And she's not moving, so let me just see if it captures it. So you have to do this always before you start. So there's a process. And I was locked out of the screen. So. Okay, Kaylee, if you could tell me. The boss,
Oh, it's good now. Yeah, come back.
Stay there.
Oh, wait, no.
Wait,
Right
it
now.
disappeared.
So if it, Alex, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the calibration process, see if it is able to capture it. Because if it fails, then you can also see that it failed.
Oh, yeah.
So stay where you are and I'll start it. So let's pretend that they did have it. It still let you move forward without having the two balls. Ideally, you want to make sure that the two eyeballs can be seen. Minus. So you start it. There you go. So this is the default Tobii calibration process. In our lab, we have it standardized the 3 little dings, and then you move on to get the 5 points of data. So what it does, there's a little dot circle here, there's a little dot circle here, a little dot here, here, and here to get the 5 quadrants of case data. So you see, not enough calibration data because we weren't able to capture the 2 eyeballs in the beginning. All right, Alex, we might have you switch and come back in here and see somebody else try it out.
Or try without glasses first.
She did, so she took out the glasses, it didn't appear, yeah. So you wanted to be able to see check calibration. You can see if it's just the eye tracker not picking it up. Right now it's trying to process something in there, so. No, it's just not stabilizing it enough to say that somebody is there. So. Kaylee, do you want to try going in there? I'm sorry?
The height with the.
Yeah, so it's the height itself could be an issue. It could also be how far they are. So that's why I was gonna go in there and see if it's let's see. Is it calibrating something on there?
I mean, there's the white screen with the 9 little red dots.
Yeah, so it's actually calibrating your eyes right now.
Okay.
So it's calibrating the whole system of not just her, but just calibrating if the calibration process in the eye tracker is okay or not. So it's in the middle of it, but so yeah, like I said, this calibration process without it, we really can't move forward or have accurate data. So you want to be, even though this takes a while, you want to make sure that this is good.
Yeah.
And then the other parts of this, under visualizations, this is where you can sort of get the heat map and gaze plot. So we'll see that again too. Areas of interest, this is where you can start creating different areas of interest. Within your replay, you can create scenes and segments. Now, scenes and segments, this is specifically if you want the areas of interest. So if you want to look at a specific scene in this segment or this part of the video clip, or just look at when you show enough images. If you want to just look at X number of images as opposed to all of them, that's when you start creating scenes and segments. So further analyzing it. Okay, so let's see. It's still calibrating?
Yeah, it hasn't changed.
Okay, let me see.
Does anybody know how much these systems cost?
So,
I know that John was able to get this stuff with his higher
Startup,
package.
yeah.
Startup, but I'm not sure exactly what the price
should be at end of that.
So it looks similar to a bullseye on that computer where it tries to find, like there's 9 dots and it tries to find the accuracy. So sort of when we see the bullseye, it tries to see to this point, how close is that? So not only is it reliable, but accurate. Okay. All right, Kaylee, I'm gonna try again. So move around so I can capture your eyes.
Okay.
So it's very unstable. Can you move the screen down a little? See if that helps.
Like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then now sit backs, try to move up a little closer. Okay, I might try to see it and fix it in there. And let me know if there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not finding anywhere.
So let's- And then if you sit up, try to sit up a little bit taller. The center. And then if you move back a little more. Anything you picked up?
No. No.
And then if you come closer, let's see. Closer. This is usually the distance we have it at. I'm not sure why it's not letting the eyes.
I mean, it's picking something for just briefly, but then it doesn't.
At the top of it.
Yeah. It's like way up here, so.
Okay, Kaylee, we might try to, okay, come in a little closer. Okay, I'm gonna try and see if it is calibrated. I'll start the calibration, see if it goes.
Maybe there's baby goo all over the cameras.
Yeah, could be. It also, you can also customize the calibration. So not you, if you don't want the default singing thing, you can also do this attention grabbing. So if the baby starts getting different, like busy, you can get this. It doesn't record the data for attention grabbers. It only records it back to your calibration. You can also do it with mouse clicks. You can also do it with key presses. You can also customize again how you want the video to look like. I don't think it's going to calibrate, but yeah, so it's not able to capture enough calibrating. Okay, Kayla, you can come on in. So if that doesn't happen, again, you would keep recalibrating until you get data, because without it, you can't move forward. I can show you
the number of times that you try with someone before you cut it off.
I have done it. If it happens, I've done the number of times I've tried is 5. Because then it starts the child just
getting
gets
agitated.
they get agitated, so it's not going to be exactly. So I would have to just either reschedule or completely not try it. So I'm going to show one that's existing, just because then it's easier. So I can show you what it looks like, so we don't have to. So here, I think we did a different video. Same thing, like I put an instruction element that says testing, so you can, it'll preview on that side, so that doesn't work. If it doesn't happen, there's 2 participants that are already in there that we have just used in the past. So here, this is number 1. Again, it gives a percentage of sort of how much of the sample was recorded. So it doesn't say sort of the accuracy, it's just that 65% of gaze data was available. So you also have to be careful, because you don't want to say that they were 65% accurate, if that's not true. It's just 65% of the time, or 65% of their gaze data was able to be recorded. When you replay it, you can always see it.
Is that because like 40% of the time their head was moving too much?
Or they just didn't look at the screen. They were bored. They looked somewhere else outside of the eye tracker itself.
So you have some kind of a cutoff where you say, it's less than 50,
exactly, and that for us it was proportional time. So if they looked at least 20% of the overall anything, it doesn't have to be stimuli of interest, just 20% on-screen data, then I can capture them as regular. But the standard within my field is 20% usually. So again, it gives you information of where the infant or where this individual was looking, and this one we just had the instruction part of it. So it only gives you the data for this part. So as you can see, it's getting huge because the person only focused on that. So this could be beneficial again, because you can see that they're looking just at that. That was a blink. Again, those are some of those blink. They're shifting. And you can slow this down too. So when you do the frame by frame, this is when you can see that when that one line happened quickly in between, what did they shift in between, so you can see that too. Here it's just the testing stimuli, but again, or the a word, it's just an instruction page. But areas of interest, I would have to create an area of interest. So if I create a new scene, you can see that I can draw one, so I can say I really want this to be called, they can say background. And you can really customize, you can make it an oval, you can make it a square. Again, whatever you make, how you want to make sure it's standardized to be able to capture the data. Because then in the next scene, if you make this background bigger, that's no longer capturing the same area.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful of that. And then, like I said, you can copy and paste this. And you can hide some selected AOI, so that's what I do for my dynamic stimuli. Because, for example, in Peter Pan, the ball wasn't always in the frame. So I hid that AOI until it appeared in the frame. So you can do a lot of different nuances with that too. It's tricky because then you forget, you're like, oh, the whole time I was capturing something and I didn't realize I was capturing something. So you have to play it in real time and see if your AOIs are moving as related to the video itself. So the timing of it is also interesting. So once you create the areas of interest, there's the heat map. Like I said, this is what your heat map looks like. It shows you that this is the most sort of largest area that people, and it gives you an aggregated data. So if I want to look at just, let's say, this one was a control subject. This is the control subject, let's say. And this is just the, okay, and this one, let's see, maybe one. And this was the experimental subject. Anything that you can really just, again, group it to see how I break it apart. This is, again, for visual purposes.
Right.
So if you know that a control subject and an intervention subject or experimental subject is going to be different, then you can say that, oh, well, look, visually, you can also prove that. So you can do that with them.
It's a good way to just explore your data.
Exactly. And then you can always tie it on with different. So this is a gaze plot. Again, this is like I had mentioned, it gives you the shifting numbers. So it went from number 1 is off screen, 2, 3, 4 is hidden behind there, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. That's just, they not only show how big the duration is, but also is able to capture the sequence of it. So.
Oh, different colors are different subjects.
Exactly.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And then you could do the subject, and that's so you can do it overlaid with all of them, just individual, whichever one. There's again only 2 participants in this, but and then cluster if you create clusters. So if you say that these participants, I want to look at this specific area with these number of participants, so you can also break it down, group it accordingly.
So that's different from the area of interest, though.
Yeah.
Yes, because again, this is going to just show you the clustering of that particular scene on that image with this number of groups of people. Yeah, as opposed to areas of interest where you can do all of it.
Okay.
And it could also be moving stimuli, so you could also do this gaze plus. So as things change, you can see. You see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it appeared that. Right. And you can do it with one participant. So again, if you play it, this participant looked at the testing a lot later than the first participant, so you can see the differences.
Why would you want to do the clustering thing?
If you just sort of want to look at specific, that clustering is very useful for websites and marketing research, because then you can break certain aspects of the website and look at that cluster of information. So, for example, advertisers use that because you can see that if that cluster of advertisements are well received by the.
Well, it's the same, like that would be area of interest, right?
You could be, but yeah, clustering again, you can just visually show that quicker, because areas of interest will let you break it in across all the different stimuli moving too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Any questions about any of this? These are just again visual, different, and then you could create this. In order to get statistics, you have to do areas of interest. If you want specific like mean duration or fixation duration. So statistics, there's only 2 people that always ask you to define who you're. So you picked up 4 areas of interest. That there's 1 video, 2 recordings, 4 areas of interest, and then it'll be able to give you the information on that. So you can choose your metric. You can choose time to first fixation. You can do fixations before your X goal. You can do total fixation duration. I always do total fixation duration including 0, so the lines become 0, so you know that they're not watching something, not just like as a missing data. Because that's different from, because missing data and this are similar. So when you say include zeros, that means they didn't have any fixations for that, not that they were missing in general.
Okay. I see.
Yep. Fixation count, same thing, you can do it Visit duration, now how long was, for this one, it's how long was the specific website that they visited before they clicked the next one and went on to a different tab, things like that. Total visit duration, overall, what was their visit like for that particular media? Now, if I created a scene, I can see that for just that part, one specific scene, what was the visit duration like?
Wait, sorry, what were the zeros again? Like,
It's just include, so instead of just being missing data, it would be that you focus on the eyes 0% of the time. It just includes zero as opposed to leaving yours blank. Because then it could be that you're missing. Because if I'm just looking at eye gaze data, you could then become missing as opposed to you just didn't look at eyes, but you looked at other
I
areas
see.
maybe.
Okay.
So
you generally you opt for the
I personally opt for the
zero.
including zeros because then I could really differentiate whether it was just missing or it was really meant to be that this was, they looked at it, but just not that area of interest for me. So you can look at percentage fixated, percentage clicked. So overall, what was the number of times they fixated on something? You could look at percentage click, so how many times did they click a specific website. Time to first click, again, mouse click, all of this are not something that I use because I'm not interested, I'm more interested in dynamic attention. And then other things that mouse click counts, so it counts how many times you click the mouse itself. But that would be something that the user is doing, so that's interactive, because the user is actually sitting there and tracking their own. And then you can update it. The other thing, you can export the data into a different software, so it has a lot of details on doing all that information as well. And you can calculate you see that, you can also get tables. This is not possible because I have so many data points that it's not possible. So it's only feasible here, but you can see that, I'm not sure what the random ellipse rectangle things are, but you want to create it at a, as you meant. So percentage fixated mean, it gives you the percentage, and it just gives you the raw data as well. So if you feel like this gets your information portrayed, then you would use this. Otherwise, you want to take it into a further sort of step and be able to code that. Yeah, and then you can also show not on AOI, which is always interesting. So let's say that's something that I created AOI, but I want to see outside of that, what else did they focus on? You can also have Toby give you that data. So that means that the average time that they focused on that ellipse was 57 seconds, but then not on AOI, they didn't look at anything else. But I already created. So if this is
So
for this,
anything but those defined
Right.
areas.
exactly,
Yeah.
you can also get that information as well. Anything else for this?
Do they do blinks like I know the going off screen?
You would have to put that as a fixation filter. So you would say, I want to filter out the blinks, filter in the blinks, all of those things. And
Okay.
you would put a.
links.
Yeah.
You could,
Yeah.
you could. You just have to again define it. So
Okay, you
you,
have
the
to
system,
follow through.
exactly, the system
Yeah.
recognizes it, but you have to put a filter on it saying, I want the blinks part of the data or not part of the
Got
data.
it.
So mine are part of the data because again, I was looking at overall sort of, gaze duration. So, I think that's the main logistics of it. The Toby manual itself is very, very useful and thorough for just getting started initially and designing what you would like it to be, sort of designing your lab environment, your lab setting, and anything further than that is very research specific. So what your outcome is, what you want that research question to answer, you want to be able to make sure that it is capturing and is able to get through that. I think that's all of it for the Toby Studio.
And then it can export like an example clip with
Exactly.
overlay,
Right. So
just as an
exactly
illustration.
so I can just export the movie and it'll export with the actual gaze data overlaid, and then
Right.
I can do it for current recording. I can do a segment if I created segments. If I just did this one segment I was interested in, I could also export that. And that is actually what we do. So what my RAs do is they export the segments from, because I show Peter Pan and Muppets movie,
Yeah.
those are two separate things.
Yeah.
So I have them recorded in segments. So I export just the Peter Pan segment, the Muppets movie
Yeah.
segment, and then they take that information into Nodus and break it down and do frame by frame analysis.
Okay.
But I created the areas of interest within here, so that is also there. So that gets added on top of the Nodus, so they don't have to code the areas of interest. So, yeah.
So by doing the frame by frame analysis, what kind of data are you getting from that you're not getting in Toby? Like, what's the benefit of?
It's just more micro, so it's
Okay.
very good for saccades, so
Okay.
very good for looking at the gaze shifting patterns in between, because it gives you just overall duration here, but if I want to look at just break it apart into more areas of interest like hair, as opposed to just the face, or and things like outside of eyes and mouth, I can look at their cheekbones, things like that. If you really want to microanalyze
Very
other
specific,
parts of
okay.
the data. Yeah, Toby is really good at giving you just the overall picture, and you can customize it to give you specific things, but because my data was a moving stimuli constantly, it's a clip of just if people interacting,
Yeah.
there's a lot more that could be going on that I want them to capture in the frame by frame.
Okay.
And in the frame by frame, it can give you, there's also the additional benefit of human coding, where you can see that Toby says that the gaze data here, it's on, let's say this was on ball, but then when you code it frame by frame, you see that it's on the ball, but then it moved in the next frame, it went to the ball, if the ball is being held, it went to the hands.
Yeah.
Things like that. So you can really get that very, very micro level coding if it's going to be important. But as you can imagine, if it's going to be important for facial features, if
Yeah.
you're coding that would be very important. That you want to code it
Right.
more specific.
Right.
And because if you're doing just still photographs, that might not be as important to do,
Okay.
overall. But if you're looking at
Super
before and
helpful
after,
for
sort of
visualization.
clinical research wise, you want to be able to code that. You want to say that fear was did last after the intervention was introduced, or that specific outcome was achieved, and those things you want to break it apart.
I mean, could you be really, really careful about your areas of interest? Like, really accurate in terms of frame by frame, the eyes, not just the eyes, but the eyes, right?
Right.
Is that a way to get around maybe?
You absolutely can, but it's just more cumbersome to do that because you then have to define the background. You have to define everything, so create the whole image as an area of interest
Right.
to be able
I
to
see
code
what
that.
you
If you
mean.
just use it within here, so I could just
Right.
create the whole
Yeah, there, it has
all
to,
the scenes. So right now it's
everything,
just this.
Right.
I would have to be like this box and then this box,
Right.
and then also be able to group them together because there are
Right.
certain types that like eyes there could be multiple characters. So I would want
Right.
eyes of both of you as
Right.
opposed to individual because maybe it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
see what
just
you mean,
human
yeah.
as opposed to animals or
Yeah.
overall categorizing them
Yeah.
too. So.
Yeah, I see. So you could, yeah.
Right, and then I can show you how it looks in one of my, this might take a while because there's a lot of data, so it might take a while to open up, but you can see if they have an example here of how I think they did the area of interest completely,
Like saturated, like
Exactly,
every
like
single
every
pixel
single-
is accounted for.
exactly.
Yeah.
so let's see. And you can filter out, like a lot of filters you can add in, and if you already know that you're looking at certain variables from the beginning where you know that there are sex differences, for example, before you even start recording, you would group that independent variable and say sex is a variable that's important for me. So for us, it was age. So within Noldus, as soon as they open the coding software, they open and they have to define what age the participant is, because then it really helps sort of already group them in that. And I can do analysis that way. Anything else about Noldus that you feel like that we tell or that might be important?
It took me, so for RAs, for the Muppets and the Peter Pan clips, each were a couple minutes. Muppets was a little longer.
It's 2 minutes and 10 seconds, so it's a long time for them to sort of
Yeah.
code frame by frame. And
So for those two clips, it would take me an hour to do the two. So which is why we had so many of us. But I think it was really nice to be able to say they were looking at hair versus they were looking at forehead.
so having those subtle, yeah. And this is what an area of interest could look like. As you see, not only they created a box around the baby, but they created then smaller aspects of things. So you have to just create everything within,
Right,
see.
yeah.
This is easier to do if you have the still photograph and
Yeah.
are able to, because I'll show you how painful it is in
Yeah,
dynamic
I know.
stimuli.
Because it's a movie, you have to change it all the time.
Every frame.
Exactly.
Save all the
Exactly, and that's why. So that is what is a downfall of this Toby, that they don't have moving AOIs, because I get that it's hard to create it where because everyone's moving stimuli might be different, but it would have been great too.
But that's upfront effort, but in the end, it does the analysis for you.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and then because in Noldus, it's once they categorize that it's hair, it's mouth, this. In Noldus particularly, it's now like sort of categorized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I just use a timestamp data to be able to say that this is on average how long, this is the number of times, things like that. So let's see, if I did Peter Pan, so I can show you, this is for all the different participants, not just, I also had typically developing groups, so you can see, this is the gaze plot. So You can see this is not as important now. This doesn't tell us a lot visually because it's a whole cluster of data. But then when I start grouping people together or just, smaller data, then it's visually really helpful. But as this
like
is
typical versus
exactly, or like, typical 6-month-olds and atypical 6-month-old, things like that. So there's multiple. Same thing, you can have animated, and you can export this for, again, visual purposes. So you can, for presentations and such, you can do it. And then, let's see, areas of interest, Peter Pan. Now, you see, this means that my AOIs are not, but I created all of this when they come on and off and things like that.
So you have to that's frame by frame, like you had to go through.
Exactly. So, and then the things that, for not only does the movie change, but they also, movies characters to the camera changes. So if you come closer, now your eyes is no longer the same eyes as you expand. So you have to account for that. And again, that's one of the things for dynamic stimuli. But it would be, so you'll see that all of this has to move and you can change it.
Right.
So see now the body is gone, but the object is here. But you see that there's an offset. All of that, that's why I have them doing all this to make sure that's really captured as the, and see, so again, the other thing you have to remember, so now I wasn't, because there's movement, I just had all the AOIs hidden. Now they came back because now they're stationary. Because again, if it's too much movement, it could be just noise. That could not be helpful. So you want to be able to.
Oh, I see. That's why. So you exclude. It's like filtering out that part of the sequence. It's too much movement.
Right. But you can't. But all of this is
Right.
a priori instead of
Right.
So it's fascinating, and I love to be like, look at this. But when I was in here doing it, I was not like, I was like, don't ever talk to me again. I was like, I can't do this.
But once, I mean, it'd be nice if there was a kind of a sharing of these resources, because someone who puts the effort in doing this, and also then if another site does it, then you can compare the same.
Right, exactly, and that's why it's it's a lot of data. So I absolutely don't want to just just be gone. And again, same thing. I had them when they're hidden. This is what they show up as, and then I could move it. So if I notice that, for example, in this one, there was some overlap between these two, because then all of a sudden now your mouth that it's capturing, it's getting into the area of the body. So Toby doesn't know that it's doing that, but I would have to make sure that it's not. So I can move it. I can move it here, and then I can move this body and expand it or less expand it. But you see, these are all individual AOIs just for body. And then I could isolate object, and then these are all the object bodies.
So if you have overlapping AOIs, it's going to screw up your data.
Right. So that's something you also have to be mindful for, especially moving AOIs, because if it's going to move and overlap into something, then what you think is like, oh, it's eyes and mouth, all of a sudden they have been overlapped by nose or even other areas too. So you can go through and individually change them. You can go through and this is the mouth, this is the body part too. Here it's hidden because there's no body to be able to capture. Things like that. So, and I did the same thing for the Muppets movie as well, which is here. You'll see this one it's different because now their eyes and the object is there. I had it hidden when it overlapped something else. And things like that. You see, I can expand the object, not expand it. This one, it's there. You see.
At least Froggy has decent eyes that you
right. Yeah. And then I was coding it, I was like, how come there's no hair on Kermit? And then I realized Kermit doesn't have hair. Because I was like, I think they coded it completely wrong, because I was so focused. I was like, everyone has hair. And then I was like, oh, because Kermit doesn't have hair. So, and then this one, again, you'll see it's a longer. So they have the champagne bottle. So I changed the object to be now champagne bottle as opposed to candle, because it doesn't matter to me what object it is. It could be candle, champagne bottle, anything, things like that. So those are all the different.
Wow.
Hopefully people can use it, and it provides a lot of data in general, and it's very beneficial if you again are able to use it with specific populations that aren't able to tell you just outright that this is what I'm thinking of or this is what I'm doing. So it's always good for attentional processing to get different behavioral, especially if you tie it with behavioral data and you can link it directly that look, they were looking at this, but they also showed in terms of their physiological reaction that they were also looking at that, or there's something. So here, I think this one is linked to physio data, so you just continue to get tied to here, because this is the main Tobii computer, but it's able to capture the physio data from that side. It's a lot. It's a lot of information. But like I said, the manual, which is also available online, the website for Tobii is very helpful. So you can start exploring what they have. Like I said, most of their services they're more helpful if you have a tracker and you're able to sort of tell them what you have, because then they can individualize their sort of.
So on the Nolda side, did you have the babies, the video of the baby?
No, it's just their eye
It's
tracking.
just this.
It's just
And it was
their
just
eye
more
tracking.
detailed of this.
Exactly.
That's right, because you were like hair versus everything,
Mhm.
and then when it moved, you scored where it moved to. Is that-
Right, and for Noldis, it was those red dots and the red lines between them, and the red dots grew when they were looking. We weren't looking at any other colors of dots.
Right, we didn't do the
It was
scan
that.
paths basically. Like I didn't have them look at. So my next goal is to look at the saccades for dialogue. So when there is dialogue, are they shifting? Those shifting
Yeah.
patterns are more
moving mouth
right.
or something.
Exactly.
Cool.
So those are, because on this stage it was just exploratory and not just, but it was it's dynamics to me. Like there's a lot of just overall attention that I wanted to focus on. That's what they did.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a couple of years if you guys have to swear, it's fine.
Holy moly. Well, and getting inter-rater reliability on the Nolda stuff.
Exactly.
and-
So they were all of them were trained together, but then they would had to. Noldis is able to do inter-rater reliability on its own, so it sees how well Kaylee did with another RA and all that. And but for me, I had them get standardized with me, sort of, or
Yeah.
just like seeing their visual data or their coding and see how well they are. So you can also standardize
Yeah.
it if there's a gold standard or across the
Right.
four of us, is there a standard? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to like set rules about what exactly is body, it's neck down, and
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
all that stuff.
And then sort of looking at if there's confusion, it's like I think it's cheek and you think it's nose. Well, I mean, it could be more
Yeah,
subtle,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, if it's like in between the two areas, you have to look at fixations right before and after, and that's why frame by frame is also helpful because you can do that.
Very cool.
Thank you. Tobii could do that all on itself, though.
Yeah.
I didn't know it had all those capabilities.
It does, yeah. So it's very helpful if you're looking as a first sort of foundation level of what your data looks
Yeah.
like. It's very helpful
Yeah,
to
big
go
kind
through
of
that.
big chunks. Yeah.
Exactly, big picture idea. You can see it, and then you could, depending on what you want to really focus on, you can use it in a MATLAB and use different sort of softwares.
Is that what you brought it into MATLAB, or what did you?
I use it in Noldis, but I would definitely moving forward use MATLAB
Yeah.
just because MATLAB is it gives a lot more quantitative focus and
Yeah.
it really helps me also map out the data so I can visually see the data, not just like in terms of gaze data, but sort of on an XY coordinates. I want to be able to
Yeah.
see that what is the time of how does their timing look like.
Oh,
and those kinds
MATLAB
of
does that better. Yeah.
It does, and I would design. So basically, I would design the code for it, and then it would spit that out for me. It's very engineer focused. It's heavily used in economics and engineering fields, but a lot of eye tracking data now is used in MATLAB because it's so much more widely available, and there's a lot more resources as opposed to Clearview, which is much older software
Yeah.
and things like that. But it also depends because if you buy a certain software, like the eye tracking software, they might have their own patent and they want you to only link it with that, so they might make it difficult. But
Yeah.
Noldis has partnership with Tobii that it is able to easily extrapolate between the two. So.